The wine glass was halfway to my lips when Dad stood up and walked to the television, and I just knew, something was terribly wrong. I'm Juliet Kensington, 32 years old, and until that Sunday evening in March, I thought I knew everything about my family. We were gathered for our monthly dinner at my parents' house in Connecticut, a tradition we'd kept alive for 15 years. The kind of tradition where Mom made her famous rosemary lamb, Dad opened a bottle of wine he'd been saving, and my younger brother Spencer showed up fashionably late with an excuse about traffic. Except tonight, Spencer had been on time. He'd been quiet too, picking at his food, refusing the wine. "I'm trying to cut back," he'd said when Mom offered to refill his glass. She'd smiled, proud, thinking he was finally getting his life together at 29. I should have known better. Mom was talking about the new neighbors, a couple from Boston with twin girls who reminded her of Spencer and me when we were young. She laughed, gesturing with her fork, completely oblivious to the storm about to hit. I sat across from Spencer, watching him push roasted vegetables around his plate. His hand trembled slightly. The small birthmark on his neck, a star-shaped cluster of freckles, seemed more prominent than usual against his pale skin. Dad had been silent through most of dinner. Harvey Kensington wasn't usually a chatty man. 30 years as a bank manager had taught him to measure his words carefully. But tonight his silence felt different, heavier. He kept glancing at Spencer, then at me, his jaw tight. When he finally stood up, Mom stopped mid-sentence. "Harvey, what's wrong?" He didn't answer. Just walked to the entertainment center and pulled a USB drive from his pocket. The small black device looked ominous in his weathered hand. "Everyone needs to watch something," he said, his voice carrying a weight I'd never heard before. "Don't say anything until it's over." My stomach dropped. Dad inserted the USB into the TV, and the screen flickered to life. The familiar blue and white logo of First National Bank appeared, followed by black and white security footage. The timestamp read 3 weeks ago, Tuesday, 2:47 p. "Dad, what is this?" I asked, setting down my wine glass. He held up his hand for silence, his eyes never leaving the screen. The footage showed the interior of a bank branch, the Madison Street location. I recognized it immediately. A figure approached the teller window. Baseball cap, aviator sunglasses, a navy blue blazer that looked exactly like the one hanging in my closet. My heart started racing. The person moved with a familiar gait, favoring their left side slightly. They tucked a strand of hair behind their ear, a gesture I'd seen 1,000 times. The teller counted out stack after stack of $100 bills. 23 bundles. I watched frozen as the person signed a withdrawal slip. "That's our family emergency fund," Dad said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. $200,000. Built up over 30 years. Your grandmother Rose's life insurance. My bonuses from the bank. Everything we saved for a real catastrophe. He turned to look directly at me. "The account that only you were supposed to have access to, Juliet. The one you promised to protect." "What?" The word came out strangled. "Dad, I've never—" "Watch," he commanded. The figure on screen adjusted their sunglasses, and for just a moment the camera caught a clear angle. There on the left side of their neck, a star-shaped birthmark. My eyes shot to Spencer. He'd gone completely white, his wine glass slipping from his fingers. It shattered against the hardwood floor, red wine spreading like blood across the pale wood. I started to say, but the words died in my throat. Because that person looked exactly like me. Same height, 5'7", same build. Even wearing my blazer, the one I'd lent to Spencer last month when he'd shown up at my apartment soaked from the rain. But I knew with absolute certainty that I had never been to that bank, never touched that money. Mom stood up so fast her chair toppled backward. "Robert, what are you saying? What is this?" Dad pressed a button on the remote. Another video filled the screen. Different bank branch, the downtown location. 6 days later, according to the timestamp. Same figure, same careful movements. Another withdrawal slip. $19,500. Then another video. Westport branch. $18,200. Then another. Stamford. $21,000. 23 withdrawals, Dad said, pulling out his phone to show a spreadsheet. Over 21 days, 7 different branches, always different times, always just under $10,000 per transaction. Why under $10,000? Mom asked, her voice shaking. Because banks are required to report cash transactions over $10,000 to the IRS, I answered automatically, my accountant brain kicking in even as my personal world crumbled. It's called structuring. It's illegal. Very illegal, Dad confirmed. Professional, calculated. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. The doorbell rang, sharp and urgent, followed immediately by firm knocking. Police, we need to speak with Juliet Kensington. The room spun. This wasn't just about money. This was about my entire life, my career, my reputation, identity theft, fraud, federal crimes that could send me to prison for decades. As I stood on shaking legs, I caught Spencer's reflection in the hallway mirror. The look on his face wasn't shock or confusion. It was guilt. Pure, undeniable guilt. And something else. Fear. Spencer, I whispered, turning back to him. What did you do? 3 weeks before that horrible Sunday dinner, life had seemed perfect. I'd just gotten promoted to senior accountant at Morrison & Associates, a position I'd worked toward for 5 years. The salary bump meant I could finally afford that condo in Stamford I'd been eyeing. Mom had recovered fully from her hip surgery, and Spencer had called to tell me he was getting his life together, taking extra shifts at Blue Haven Restaurant, talking about maybe going back to school. I'm proud of you, little brother, I'd told him over coffee that morning. He'd smiled, but it hadn't reached his eyes. Yeah, well, finally time to grow up, right? The emergency fund had been Dad's idea after Grandma Rose passed away 5 years ago. She'd left a substantial life insurance policy, $400,000, and Dad, ever the pragmatist, insisted we keep half of it as a family safety net. You never know when disaster might strike, he'd said, sitting us down in this very dining room. Medical emergencies, job loss, house fires, the kind of life-altering events you pray never happen but need to be prepared for. He'd set up the account in my name because of my financial background. I was the responsible one, the one who balanced her checkbook to the penny, who had a retirement plan at 25, who read the fine print on every contract. Spencer was still figuring things out. At 29, he was working as a waiter, living paycheck to paycheck in a studio apartment, borrowing money from Dad that he never quite managed to pay back. But he was my little brother, and I loved him. I should have noticed the signs earlier. 2 months ago, Spencer had asked me about the emergency fund over coffee. Just curious, he'd said, stirring sugar into his latte. How does Dad access that account? Like, what if something happened to you? I'd explained that I was the only authorized user, that it required my ID, my signature, my physical presence at the bank. He'd nodded thoughtfully, then changed the subject to his girlfriend's upcoming birthday. Vanessa. I'd met her twice. Pretty, blonde, always smiling. She worked in marketing, Spencer had said. Made good money. She was the one who'd encouraged him to take those extra shifts, to start saving. She's good for me, Spencer had said. She believes in me. Then came the day he'd borrowed my blazer. It was raining. He was running late for work. His jacket was at Vanessa's apartment. Just for today, Jules. I'll bring it back tomorrow, I promise. Such a small thing, letting your brother borrow clothes. He'd returned it the next day, apologizing profusely for getting it wet. I'd hung it back in my closet and forgotten about it. Until I saw that security footage. Tet. The police officers stood in our doorway like harbingers of doom. Officer Patricia Brennan, a woman around Mom's age with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression, held up her badge. Miss Juliet Kensington, I'm Officer Brennan, this is Detective Torres. We need to ask you about some unusual activity on a bank account registered under your name. Dad stepped forward. I'm the one who called you, Robert Kensington. The account in question is our family emergency fund, and I have evidence of theft. The officers exchanged glances. This clearly wasn't what they'd expected. Can we come in? Officer Brennan asked. What followed was the most excruciating hour of my life. They laid out the evidence methodically. 23 withdrawals totaling $197,400. Each withdrawal captured on security cameras. The person always wearing my clothes or similar outfits. Always careful to keep their face partially obscured, but not enough to avoid identification. They had copies of the withdrawal slips, each bearing what looked like my signature. "I've never seen these before," I said, my hands shaking as I examined them. They were close to my signature, very close, but something was off. The way the J curved, the pressure on the downstroke of the T. Someone had practiced my signature but hadn't quite perfected it. Spencer hadn't said a word since the officers arrived. He sat curled into the corner of the couch, arms wrapped around his knees, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. "Mr. Kensington," Officer Brennan addressed Spencer directly, "do you know anything about these withdrawals?" Spencer's lips trembled. He looked at me, then at Dad, then back at the floor. "Spencer," Dad's voice was hard. "Answer the officer." Spencer's voice cracked. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." The room went silent. "What did you say?" Mom whispered. Spencer's face crumpled. Tears started streaming down his cheeks. "The person in the videos? That's me," Mom gasped. Dad's hand tightened on the back of his chair, knuckles white. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "You?" I managed to choke out. "You stole from our family? You made it look like me?" "I'm sorry, Jules. I'm so sorry." Spencer was sobbing now, words tumbling over each other. "Vanessa said I owed money. Bad people. Gambling debts. She showed me pictures of what they do to people who don't pay. I was terrified." "Vanessa," Officer Brennan's voice sharpened. "Vanessa Webb? Your girlfriend?" Spencer nodded miserably. Detective Torres pulled out a tablet, swiping to a photo. "Is this her?" Spencer looked and nodded again. The officers exchanged another look, longer this time. "Mr. Kensington," Officer Brennan said carefully, "when was the last time you saw Vanessa?" 4 days ago. She said she needed time to finalize the investments, that she'd call me once everything was ready." "And she hasn't called?" Spencer shook his head. "Her phone's disconnected. I went to her apartment yesterday. The landlord said she moved out in the middle of the night. I thought maybe she was hiding from the people she owed, but—" "But?" Torres prompted. Spencer looked up, fresh tears streaming. "But now I'm wondering if she was hiding from me." Officer Brennan sat down across from Spencer, her expression softening slightly. "Spencer, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Vanessa Webb isn't who you think she is." She turned the tablet around, showing a series of photos. Same woman, different hair colors, different styles, different names listed beneath each photo. Victoria Walsh, Phoenix, Arizona, 2 years ago. Veronica West, Seattle, Washington, 3 years ago. Violet Warren, Portland, Oregon, 4 years ago. Spencer stared in the photos, his face draining of color. "Her real name is Vivian Blackwood," Detective Torres said. "And she's wanted by the FBI for fraud in 8 states. You're not her first victim, Spencer. You're number 67. 10. The police station at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night was quieter than I expected. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in a harsh, clinical glow that made Spencer look even paler than he had at dinner. We sat in a small conference room, Spencer on one side of the table, handcuffed to a metal ring bolted to the surface. Mom, Dad, and I sat on the other side, separated by 3 feet of scarred wood that felt like miles. Officer Brennan and Detective Torres stood by the door. And then there was the new arrival, FBI Special Agent Robert Caldwell. He looked nothing like what I expected from a federal agent. No suit, no tie, just jeans and a Georgetown law sweatshirt, like he'd been pulled from a quiet Sunday at home, which he explained he had been. "I've been tracking Vivian Blackwood for 4 years, Caldwell said, opening his laptop and connecting it to a projector. The wall behind him lit up with a photograph. Vanessa Webb smiled out at us. Blonde hair and loose waves, bright blue eyes, that warm smile that had convinced my brother she loved him. "This is the woman Spencer knows," Caldwell continued, "but this isn't her real identity." Another photo appeared. Same face, but with shoulder-length brown hair and green eyes. Victoria Walsh. She targeted a tech investor named Daniel Morrison in Phoenix, convinced him she was a venture capitalist. He gave her $340,000 for a startup that didn't exist. Another photo. Red hair this time, cut in a severe bob. Veronica West, Seattle. Thomas Chen, a recent widower. She met him at a grief support group. $280,000, gone. Click, click. The photos kept coming, each one showing the same woman with a different look, a different name, a different story. "Her real name is Vivian Blackwood," Caldwell said. "She's 34 years old. We've confirmed 67 victims across 13 states. Total known theft, $8.7 million. Mom made a strangled sound. Dad's hand found hers across the table. I looked at Spencer. He was staring at the photos like they were written in a language he couldn't read. "That's not... She wouldn't..." His voice was barely a whisper. "She loved me. She said she loved me." Caldwell's expression softened slightly. "Spencer, I need you to understand something. Vivian Blackwood is a professional. This is what she does. She finds vulnerable people, builds elaborate fantasies around them, and exploits them until there's nothing left to take." He pulled out a chair and sat down across from Spencer, close enough that the overhead light caught the gray threading through his dark hair. "I need you to tell me everything. From the beginning. How you met her. What she told you. Every detail matters." Spencer swallowed hard. "We met 8 months ago, at Blue Haven, the restaurant where I work." The story came out in fits and starts, Spencer's voice breaking as he relived what he thought had been a love story, but was really just a carefully orchestrated con. Vanessa had come into Blue Haven on a rainy Tuesday evening. She sat alone at a corner table, reading a book. The Psychology of Money, Spencer remembered specifically. She ordered the salmon special and a glass of Pinot Grigio. "I asked if she was enjoying the book," Spencer said. "She looked up and smiled, and I felt something, like maybe she was different from the girls I usually dated." She'd asked about his day, really asked, like she cared. When Spencer mentioned he was working a double shift to make rent, she'd nodded sympathetically. "I used to work 3 jobs, she'd told him. "I know what it's like to struggle, but it gets better. I promise." They'd talked for 20 minutes. When she left, she gave him her number on a napkin with a small heart drawn next to it. Their first date was coffee. She told him she worked in marketing for a startup, that she'd grown up poor but had learned to invest wisely. She asked about his family, and Spencer, lonely, tired of feeling like a failure compared to his successful sister, told her everything. About Juliet with her corner office and her perfect life. About Dad's disappointment every time Spencer asked to borrow money. About feeling like he'd never measure up. "Vanessa said I wasn't a failure," Spencer whispered. "She said I just needed the right opportunity, that I was smarter than I gave myself credit for." Caldwell typed notes on his laptop. "When did money first enter the conversation?" 3 months in. She introduced me to this online sports betting site. Said she'd made thousands on it. I tried it and..." Spencer's face flushed with shame. "I won $500 the first week. Then I lost it all. Then I kept betting, trying to win it back." Within a month, Spencer owed $15,000 to the betting site. He couldn't pay his rent, couldn't eat, couldn't think straight. That's when Vanessa offered to help. "She said she'd loan me the money," Spencer continued. "No interest, no pressure, just pay her back when I could. I was so grateful. I thought she was saving me." Dad made a sound low in his throat. When I looked over, his jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. 2 months later, Spencer said, Vanessa came to me crying, said she was in trouble, that the people she'd borrowed money from, to help me and for her business, were threatening her. She showed him text messages, photos of bruised faces, broken bones. "This is what happens to people who don't pay," the messages said. "She needed $200,000 in 30 days or they'd kill her," Spencer said. "Maybe kill me too, since I was connected to her. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't let her die. I couldn't let anything happen to her." "So you thought of the family fund?" I said, my voice flat. Spencer nodded, not meeting my eyes. "Vanessa said if I could get the money, she'd invest it in cryptocurrency. Triple it in a month. We'd pay back the dangerous people, return the $200,000 to the family fund, and still have profit left over. No one would ever know." "But you couldn't access the account," Detective Torres said. "Only Juliet could." "Vanessa said she could help with that." Spencer's voice dropped even lower. "She had a friend who did makeup for movies. Special effects. She said we could make me look enough like Juliet to get past the bank tellers." I felt sick. "She borrowed your blazer for measurements," Spencer said to me. "When I returned it wet, I'd actually worn it to the bank for practice, to see if anyone would question me." "The birthmark," I said suddenly. "I have a birthmark on my neck. How did you—" "Makeup." Vanessa's friend, Madison, she said her name was, used some kind of temporary tattoo ink. It lasted about 6 hours per application. Caldwell pulled up another photo on his laptop. A woman with short dark hair and glasses. "Is this Madison?" Spencer nodded. "Her real name is Madison Cole. She's part of Vivian's team. She's done this for at least 40 other victims." "Team?" Mom's voice was thin. "You're saying this was organized?" "Very organized, Mrs. Kensington." Caldwell opened a new file, and the organizational chart filled the screen. At the top, Vivian Blackwood. Below her, 4 other names, each with photos attached. "Derek Hunt," Caldwell said, pointing to a man in his early 40s with a receding hairline. "Technology specialist. He hacks social media, email accounts, bank records, finds families with money and identifies their weakest links." He clicked to the next name. "Madison Cole, 29. Professional makeup artist. She's the one who helped Spencer disguise himself as Juliet. She's done this dozens of times." Another click. "Ryan Foster, 38. He plays the enforcer. He's the one who sent the threatening messages to Vivian that she showed Spencer. He creates fake photo evidence of beatings. He's actually an out-of-work actor from Los Angeles." The 4th name made my blood run cold. "And this is Derek Hunt's girlfriend, Sarah Martinez. She scouts victims on social media, identifies their vulnerabilities, and feeds the information to Vivian." "They're a team," Dad said slowly. "A organized criminal enterprise." "Exactly." Caldwell closed the laptop. "They've been operating for at least 6 years. We've tracked them across 13 states, but they're smart. They move frequently, change identities, keep their money in cryptocurrency and offshore accounts." "You knew about them," I said, realization dawning. "When Officer Brennan said Vanessa disappeared 4 days ago, you already knew who she was." "We've been building a case for 4 years, Caldwell confirmed. "But Vivian is careful. She's never been caught on camera clearly enough for identification. She uses burner phones, fake IDs, stays in rental properties under false names. And her victims," he looked at Spencer sympathetically, "her victims often don't report the crimes because they're embarrassed, because they participated willingly, even if they were manipulated." Spencer's shoulders shook. "I gave her everything. Every withdrawal. I thought I was saving her life, saving our future together." "When did you last see her?" Caldwell asked. 4 days ago, Wednesday night. She came to my apartment, said the investment was almost ready, just needed a few more days to process. She kissed me goodnight and said," Spencer's voice broke. "She said she loved me and couldn't wait to start our life together." "And then she disappeared," Torres said. Spencer nodded miserably. "I tried calling Thursday morning. Phone disconnected. Went to her apartment. Completely empty. The landlord said she'd paid through the end of the month but cleared out in the middle of the night. Took everything." Caldwell pulled out his phone and showed Spencer a number. "Did she ever give you an emergency contact number? A phone you could use if something went wrong?" Spencer's eyes widened. "Yes. She said it was only for absolute emergencies. that she kept it turned off most of the time to stay safe from the people looking for her. Do you still have it? Spencer nodded, pulling out his own phone with his free hand. He scrolled through his contacts and showed Caldwell a number listed under V, emergency only. Caldwell photographed it, then stood up. Officer Brennan, can I speak with you and the Kensingtons outside for a moment? Torres, stay with Spencer. In the hallway, Caldwell's demeanor changed. The sympathetic investigator vanished, replaced by someone harder, more calculating. Here's where we are, he said bluntly. Spencer faces serious federal charges: identity theft, bank fraud, conspiracy. We're looking at 5 to 10 years in federal prison, minimum. Mom gasped. Dad's arm went around her shoulders. However, Caldwell continued, if he cooperates fully, and I mean fully, we might be able to make a deal. Probation instead of prison time, community service, restitution payments. What do you need from him? Dad asked. Everything he knows about Vivian, every conversation, every text message, every detail. And then, Caldwell paused. I need him to help us catch her. How? I asked. You said she disappeared. She did, but we don't think she's left Connecticut yet. Caldwell pulled up a photo on his phone. An elegant woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair. This is Eleanor Price. She's a widow who inherited $2.4 million from her husband 6 months ago. She's been attending a grief support group in Hartford. He swiped to another photo. A woman with black hair and glasses sitting next to Eleanor in what looked like a coffee shop. 3 weeks ago, Eleanor met a woman named Violet Warren. They've been getting close. Violet has been very sympathetic about Eleanor's loss, very interested in how Eleanor is managing her finances. Oh God, I breathed. It's Vivian. We believe so. We've had an agent keeping an eye on Eleanor since we identified the pattern, but we haven't been able to confirm it's Vivian or catch her in any criminal act yet. She's being extremely careful with this one. Because $2.4 million is her biggest score yet, Dad said grimly. Exactly. If we can use Spencer to lure her out before she completes this con. Caldwell looked at each of us in turn. We can end this, not just for your family, but for the hundreds of people she'll victimize in the future. Officer Brennan spoke up. Spencer would need to send her a message. Make her think there's more money, that he held some back from the original theft. Make her greedy enough to break cover. You want to use my son as bait, Dad said. Yes, Caldwell answered simply. I won't lie to you, Mr. Kensington, there's risk involved, but Spencer has something none of Vivian's other victims have had. What's that? A family willing to fight for him, and evidence. Caldwell gestured back toward the conference room. Spencer's been recording some of his conversations with Vivian. He didn't know what he was recording. He thought he was just saving sweet messages to replay later. But what he actually has is evidence of her manipulation techniques, her lies, her conspiracy. My heart clenched. Despite everything, despite the theft, the betrayal, the humiliation, Spencer was still my little brother, the kid who'd cried when I left for college, who'd called me every week during my first year away because he missed me. And some woman had taken that lonely, insecure boy and turned him into a weapon against his own family. What do you need us to do? I heard myself ask. Caldwell smiled grimly. First, we need to hear those recordings. Then we need to set a trap that Vivian Blackwood won't be able to resist. Back in the conference room, Spencer pulled up his voice memos app with shaking hands. I started recording about 2 months ago, he admitted. At first because I wanted to replay her saying she loved me. But then, I don't know. Something felt off, so I kept recording, just in case. He played the first one. Vanessa's voice filled the room, smooth and warm. Baby, your family won't even notice the money's gone. They have plenty. And Juliet? She's got her big promotion, her perfect life. This is our chance to have what she has. Don't you deserve to be happy too? The next recording was darker. If you don't do this, they'll kill me, Spencer. Is that what you want? You want to be responsible for my death? Because you cared more about their money than my life? Mom turned away, unable to listen. The final recording was from 5 days ago. Stop worrying, baby. The investment's almost processed. Just a few more days and we'll have enough to pay everyone back and start our new life. Trust me. Have I ever lied to you? The silence after the recording ended was deafening. She knew exactly what to say. I whispered. Every word was calculated to make him feel guilty, to make him feel like he was the hero saving her. That's what she does, Caldwell said. She finds people's deepest insecurities and exploits them. Spencer felt overshadowed by you, Juliet. Felt like a disappointment to his parents. Vivian made him feel special, needed, heroic. And then she used that to destroy him. He looked at Spencer. Are you willing to do this? To help us catch her? Spencer wiped his eyes. What do I have to do? Caldwell pulled out a notepad and began writing. You're going to send her a message, something that will make her break cover, make her greedy and desperate enough to risk coming back. He showed us what he'd written. V, I'm in trouble. Police came, but I didn't tell them about you, kept you safe. But I need to see you. I hid $50K they don't know about. It's yours. Meet me one last time. I'll take the fall alone. I love you, always. Spencer read it and nodded slowly. She'll come for $50,000. She can't resist. Exactly, Caldwell said. And when she does, we'll be waiting. 48 hours later, I stood in a FBI command van 2 blocks from the Harborview Hotel, watching my little brother walk into what could be either his redemption or his destruction. The van was cramped, filled with monitors showing 8 different camera angles of room 412. Agent Caldwell sat at the control panel, headphones on, fingers dancing across keyboards. Officer Brennan stood behind him, arms crossed, watching the screens with the intensity of a hawk. Mom and Dad sat in the back corner, holding hands so tightly their knuckles had gone white. And I stood in the middle, barely breathing, as Spencer entered the frame on monitor 3. He looked terrified. Spencer, you hear me? Caldwell's voice was calm, professional, transmitted through the nearly invisible earpiece Spencer wore. On screen, Spencer gave the slightest nod. Good. Remember, she's going to test you. She's going to look for signs you're lying. You need to stay calm. You're doing this to save your family, to stop her from hurting anyone else. You've got this. Spencer sat on the edge of the hotel bed, hands clasped between his knees. On the desk beside him sat a small duffel bag, $50,000 in marked bills. Well, $50,000 in real money wrapped around stacks of cut paper. The FBI wasn't taking chances with real cash. My phone buzzed. A text from Spencer sent before he'd entered the room. I'm sorry, Jules, for everything. If this goes wrong, please know I love you. I'd typed and deleted 5 responses before settling on, I love you too. Now go catch that bitch. 7:47 p.m. Caldwell's radio crackled. All units in position. Subject spotted entering hotel lobby. Dark hair, glasses, gray jacket. Moving toward elevators. That's not what she looks like, Spencer said aloud, forgetting for a moment that we could hear him. She'll have changed her appearance, Caldwell said into the mic. Stay focused. When she comes in, you're a man in love who's about to lose everything. That's all she needs to see. On monitor 1, the elevator doors opened on the 4th floor. A woman stepped out. Short black hair, thick-framed glasses, no makeup. She wore jeans and a Georgetown hoodie, looking like a grad student, not a woman who'd stolen nearly $9 million. But when she moved, I recognized her. The way she walked, the tilt of her head. Vivian Blackwood. Oh, God, Mom whispered. That's really her. 3 soft knocks on the door. Spencer stood, wiped his palms on his jeans, and opened it. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Then Vivian stepped inside and closed the door behind her. She didn't hug him, didn't smile, just studied him with cold, analytical eyes. "Hello, Spencer." Her voice was different, too. Not the warm, honeyed tone Spencer had fallen in love with. This was clipped, businesslike. "V," Spencer breathed. "You came. I didn't think you would." "Where's the money?" Straight to business. No pretense of affection. Spencer gestured to the duffel bag. 50,000. Everything I could hide before the police showed up. Vivian walked to the desk, unzipped the bag, and pulled out a stack of bills. She held one up to the light, checking the watermark, then flipped through the stack with practiced efficiency. "Why did you hide money?" she asked, not looking at him. "I wanted to protect you." Spencer's voice cracked. Genuine emotion, not performance. "If the police found it, they'd know you were involved. I couldn't let them connect you to this." Vivian set down the bills and turned to face him fully. "You're lying." The air in the van turned to ice. "Spencer, stay calm," Caldwell murmured into the mic. "Stick to the script." "I'm not lying," Spencer said, taking a step toward her. "I love you. I'm taking the fall for everything. They think it was all my idea." "You're safe." Vivian laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "You really think I'm stupid enough to believe that?" She pulled out her phone, and for a horrible moment I thought she was going to call someone, alert an accomplice, disappear again. Instead, she pulled up a recording app and pressed play. Caldwell's voice filled the room. "Spencer, you're going to send her a message, something that will make her break cover." Spencer's face drained of color. "I was monitoring your phone," Vivian said calmly. "Basic keystroke logger Derek installed 2 months ago. I know the FBI talked to you. I know they offered you a deal. I know this is a trap." "All units, prepare to move in," Brennan said sharply into her radio. "Wait," Caldwell held up a hand. "Give it 30 more seconds." On screen, Spencer's hands were shaking. "If you knew it was a trap, why did you come?" Vivian smiled, and it was the coldest thing I'd ever seen. "Because I wanted to offer you something better." She stepped closer to him, close enough that the microphone picked up her lowered voice perfectly. "Your father knew, Spencer. Harvey knew about the theft 3 weeks before he turned you in." Spencer's eyes widened. "What?" "He's a former bank manager with connections everywhere. The first withdrawal? He was alerted immediately. He could have stopped you after the first 23,000. But he didn't." "You're lying," Spencer whispered. "Am I? Ask yourself, why did he wait 3 weeks to confront you? Why did he gather all that evidence, time the police arrival so perfectly, make such a dramatic scene?" Vivian's voice was hypnotic, poisonous. "Because he wanted you to hit rock bottom. He wanted you to feel like a complete failure so he could swoop in and save you, and you'd spend the rest of your life grateful and obedient." In the van, Dad's face had gone white. "That's not... I would never..." "She's trying to turn him against us," I said, grabbing Dad's arm. "It's what she does." On screen, Spencer was backing away from Vivian. "Even if that were true, it doesn't change what you did. You used me. You manipulated me. You made me steal from my family." "I gave you an opportunity," Vivian corrected, "to be more than the family disappointment, to have real money, real power, and I'm offering it again." She pulled a tablet from her bag and showed him the screen. "Eleanor Price, $2.4 million. I've been working her for 3 weeks. 2 more weeks and the money transfers. Come with me, Spencer. We split it 50-50. 1.2 million each. We disappear to somewhere without extradition treaties. Start over." Spencer stared at the tablet, and for one terrifying moment I thought he might actually consider it. Then he laughed. It started as a chuckle and built into something almost hysterical. "What's so funny?" Vivian's mask cracked slightly, showing irritation. "You," Spencer said, pulling out his phone. "You're so confident, so sure you're the smartest person in the room. You monitored my phone, hacked my conversations, knew this was a trap, but you missed something." He held up his phone, showing a recording app running. "I've been recording every conversation we've had for 2 months. Not on my phone, on an old burner I bought for cash. No keystroke logger, no monitoring, just evidence. He swiped through the videos. 14 recordings of you explaining the plan, you coaching me on how to forge Juliet's signature, you introducing me to Madison for the makeup, you threatening me with those fake photos Ryan sent. Vivian's face went absolutely still. The FBI has all of it, Spencer continued, his voice stronger now. I uploaded everything to a secure server yesterday. Even if something happens to me, they have everything they need to put you away for decades. Vivian lunged toward him. The hotel room door exploded inward. FBI! On the ground! Now! 6 agents swarmed in, weapons drawn. Vivian tried to run for the bathroom, but Agent Torres was already there, tackling her to the ground with professional efficiency. Vivian Blackwood, you're under arrest for 67 counts of fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, and money laundering. They cuffed her, yanked her to her feet. Her glasses had fallen off, and without them, with her face twisted in rage, I finally saw who she really was. Not the charming girlfriend who'd made Spencer feel special. Not the vulnerable victim who'd needed saving. Just a predator who'd been caught. I'll get out, she snarled at Spencer as they dragged her toward the door. I always get out. And when I do, you won't, Caldwell said, stepping into the room. We found Derek Hunt in Mexico 2 days ago. He's already flipped on you. Gave us everything. The bank accounts, the cryptocurrency wallets, the complete list of victims. Madison Cole and Ryan Foster are in custody. Sarah Martinez turned herself in this morning. He held up a folder thick with documents. It's over, Vivian. Your entire operation is finished. For the first time, real fear flickered across Vivian's face. Then it vanished, replaced by that cold, empty smile. You think this is over? You have no idea how many people like me are out there. How easy you all are to manipulate. Spencer's just one pathetic example in... Spencer stepped forward and slapped her. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Everyone froze. My name, Spencer said quietly, is not an example. I'm a person you almost destroyed. But I'm still here. And you're going to prison. They led her out. 2 weeks later, we sat in a federal courtroom as the judge read the charges. 67 counts of wire fraud, 67 counts of identity theft, conspiracy, money laundering. The list went on for nearly 10 minutes. Vivian Blackwood sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, showing no emotion as victim after victim took the stand. Daniel Morrison, who'd lost his house. Jennifer Hayes, whose children's college funds had vanished. Thomas Chen, who'd attempted suicide after Vivian disappeared with his late wife's insurance money. And Eleanor Price, who stood before the court and said, "This woman almost convinced me my dead husband would have wanted me to invest in her cryptocurrency scheme. She studied me like a specimen, found my weaknesses, and exploited them without a shred of remorse. She doesn't deserve to walk free among decent people." When Spencer testified, he spoke for 20 minutes. He didn't make excuses. He owned his actions, his choices, his crimes. But he also laid bare Vivian's manipulation with clinical precision. She made me believe I was saving her life, he said, his voice steady. That I was being a hero. But the truth is, she was always 10 steps ahead, always in control. I was never her partner. I was just another mark. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Judge Margaret Brennan, no relation to Officer Brennan, was a severe woman in her late 60s who'd seen every type of criminal in her 30-year career. "Miss Blackwood," she said, looking down from the bench with utter contempt, "you didn't just steal money. You stole trust. You stole hope. You turned family members against each other. You exploited grief, loneliness, and insecurity with surgical precision. You are a predator who deserves no mercy from this court." She brought down her gavel. 35 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole. You will spend the rest of your productive life behind bars, where you can't hurt anyone else. As they led Vivian away, she turned to look back at Spencer one last time. She smiled, that same cold, empty smile. Spencer didn't look away. He held her gaze until she disappeared through the doors. "It's really over," he whispered. Spencer's sentencing came a week later. The prosecutor, in consideration of his cooperation and the evidence he'd provided, recommended leniency. The judge agreed. "Mr. Kensington, you committed serious crimes, but you were also a victim of sophisticated manipulation. More importantly, you made the choice to stop the cycle, to protect others. That takes courage." 5 years probation, 2,000 hours of community service, restitution of $197,400 over 15 years, no prison time. Spencer cried when the judge announced it. So did Mom. Outside the courthouse, Dad pulled Spencer into a tight hug, the first time I'd seen them embrace in years. "I'm sorry," Spencer said into Dad's shoulder. "I'm so sorry for everything." "I'm sorry too," Dad said, his voice rough. "Vivian was right about one thing. I did know earlier than I let on. Not 3 weeks, but I knew after the first week. And I didn't stop you immediately because—" He pulled back, looking Spencer in the eye. "Because I wanted you to realize on your own that what you were doing was wrong. I thought if I just confronted you, you'd make excuses, blame Vivian, not take responsibility. I wanted you to see the truth yourself." "That was a hell of a risk," Spencer said. "It was. And it nearly destroyed our family. That's on me." Dad's voice cracked. "I'm supposed to protect my children, not use them in some kind of twisted life lesson. Can you forgive me?" Spencer nodded, fresh tears streaming. "Can you forgive me?" "Already have, son. Already have." 6 months later, our monthly Sunday dinner had resumed. The dining room looked the same. Same table, same chairs, same view of the backyard where Spencer and I had played as kids. But everything felt different. Spencer lived at home now, in his old bedroom. He'd started working at Fraud Victim Support, a nonprofit that helped people who'd been scammed. He'd counseled 23 victims so far, using his story to help them understand they weren't stupid, just human. "Someone called today," Spencer said, passing the salad. "A guy from Minneapolis. His girlfriend convinced him to drain his 401k for a business opportunity. He was about to do it when he heard my interview on that podcast." "You saved his retirement," Mom said proudly. "Maybe, or maybe I just helped him see what I couldn't see, that if something feels off, it probably is." Dad had come out of retirement to consult with banks on fraud prevention. He'd created a training program teaching bank employees to recognize manipulation tactics and structured withdrawals. 3 attempted scams caught this month alone, he announced, refilling wine glasses. All because tellers remembered the training. Mom had started a support group for families affected by financial fraud. 12 members now, meeting every Thursday at the community center. And I'd been promoted to CFO at Morrison & Associates. The first thing I did was implement a new emergency fund system, 3 separate accounts, 3 different banks, requiring 2 signatures for any withdrawal over $5,000. "We've recovered $68,000 so far," I said. "The FBI seized some of Vivian's cryptocurrency before she could move it. Another $30,000 came from selling Derek Hunt's car and electronics." "Only $129,000 to go," Spencer said with a weak smile. "We'll get there," Dad said firmly. Together. After dinner, Spencer and I stood on the back porch, watching the sun set over the trees. "Caldwell called me yesterday," Spencer said. "Derek Hunt's testimony helped them identify 17 more victims we didn't know about. They're building cases in 4 more states. That's good." "Yeah." He was quiet for a moment. "Jules, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Do you think I'm a good person who did a bad thing? Or a bad person who's trying to be good?" I thought about it carefully. "I think you're a person. Period. People make mistakes, sometimes catastrophic ones. What matters is what you do after." "And what am I doing after?" "Saving people. Helping them avoid the trap you fell into. Paying back what you took, even though it'll take you years. Showing up every Sunday, even though it's hard. Facing what you did instead of running from it. I bumped his shoulder with mine. I'd say you're doing pretty damn well. He smiled. The first real smile I'd seen from him in months. Inside, through the window, we could see Mom and Dad clearing the table together, laughing about something. We almost lost this, Spencer said softly. But we didn't. We fought for it. And we won. 3 months later, I got a call from Agent Caldwell. Thought you'd want to know. Vivian Blackwood tried to run a romance scam from inside federal prison. You're kidding. Wish I was. She convinced a corrections officer she was wrongly convicted. Had him bringing her contraband phone, was setting up to have him steal from the prison credit union. Warden caught it in time. She's in solitary now. Lost all privileges. Some people never change, I said. No, but some do. How's Spencer? Good. Really good, actually. He's speaking at a fraud prevention conference next month. I'll be there. Wouldn't miss it. After we hung up, I pulled up Spencer's contact and sent him a text. Proud of you, little brother. His response came immediately. Couldn't have done it without you. Love you, Jules. I looked around my office, the corner office I'd worked so hard for, the professional success I'd built. Once upon a time, I thought this was everything. The promotion, the salary, the respect. But standing in that police station 6 months ago, watching my brother confess to stealing from our family, I'd realized something. Success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. The Kensington Family Emergency Fund had been depleted. We'd lost nearly $200,000 and gained something far more valuable. We'd learned that trust, once broken, could be repaired. Not restored to its original state, but rebuilt into something stronger, more honest, more real. We'd learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, but choosing to move forward anyway. And we'd learned that family isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up for each other, especially when it's hard, especially when you've been hurt, especially when forgiveness feels impossible. The money would come back. It was already coming back, slowly, painfully, but steadily. But the lesson? That was already paid for, in full. Chen,